This is another episode of Real Wealth Podcast. Welcome. This is Mike Proctor, your host, sponsored by Leading Edge Financial Planning. And today we have a special guest, Katie Taube. She is a Fox Kansas news anchor, and you've probably seen her if you've been in the area. If you ever watch Fox at night, usually around 9 or 10 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Yep.
9 o'clock every day of the week. I'm there Monday through Friday, but it's on every day of the week.
Absolutely. So I've actually I have a professional here who does this stuff professionally. I'm not a professional when it comes to this.
Okay.
But Katie's used to being on camera, and you've had years of experience doing it. How long have you been on camera?
It was 20 years this past September.
Congratulations.
September 3rd was 20 years.
That's amazing.
So I remember starting out and thinking people who had 7 to 8 years experience, I'm like, that's so much experience. And here I am at 20. That went like that.
That's wild. And so you've moved around a little bit between the different stations and networks.
Lived in different parts of the country, kind of comes with the job, depending on how you want your career to go. But that's just what I did. I stayed mostly in the Midwest, and I've been in Wichita now for 12 years. So over half of my career, which I never thought I'd say either, but life happens and here we are.
That's amazing. Thank you for doing that. And so you've covered some really incredible stories. We'll talk about maybe a couple that come to mind, but what I'm really interested in talking about today is a couple of things. One is learning from Katie on how to stay engaged as we're in conversations, how to stay curious, how to use some of the anchoring news reporting skills that she's picked up over the years or honed her craft in, and apply those to everyday life. Here's some stories. She's going to share us a little bit about her husband and her work with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And I'm really excited for the conversation, Katie.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. So this will be fun.
Absolutely. So why don't you start off with maybe some career stuff just to get us going?
So I am one of the few people, or at least I think the few people that just knew what they wanted to do from an early age. So from probably this age of 8 or 9, I had envisioned myself working in television. There were a couple other little career things that kind of came and went, but TV was always the constant. So I went to school for it, graduated with a journalism degree, and got a job maybe 3 months after graduation. And so that's everything I've done, and I just haven't looked back from it. So I started out as most reporters do, at the time we called them a one-man band. Now it's probably a multimedia journalist is what it's called, but you shoot, write, edit, you do everything, produce. I did some anchoring. I did some shows that I produced while I anchored. And at the time it was really rough, but it gave me a really great foundation to, be able to have skills in many different areas, which was very helpful. So I did that for a couple years and decided that I wanted to be an anchor. There are lots of different career paths you can take. Producers take different paths, reporters, anchors. You kind of got to choose what you want to do. And I just decided that one of my main focus to be anchoring. And so a lot of times it's easier to move up in the position of what you're at, as opposed to like moving up as a reporter and then deciding to be an anchor. So I went to a smaller market before I went to a larger market. And I went to Cadillac, Michigan, 9 and 10 News there. And I was what is called the primetime anchor. So I anchored 5, 6, and 10, Monday through Friday. And that's where I started to get my anchoring legs under me. Did well there, then moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and KSFY. I think now it's Dakota News Now. And it was also a primetime anchor in the evenings, and continued developing skills. And then during that time, I actually ended up meeting my husband. We met online before meeting online was cool. So we had to keep it under the radar at the time. We didn't want anybody to know that's how we met. But he was living, I put like a 3-hour radius. I just knew, working evenings, a lot of times, you do your newscasts, and a lot of people will either go out like to beverage establishments after work. And I just knew that wasn't something that I wanted for meeting my husband. But that was my lifestyle. So I went online to find somebody not at a bar. And I met my husband. He was living in Des Moines at the time. We dated long distance the entire time. Got engaged, got married, and then I moved to Des Moines after my stint in South Dakota was done. And we were there for about a month or two, and then I got the job in Wichita. So Wichita has been our whole married adult life. Came down here, started as the Fox News anchor at the time. Then I switched over and did mornings for a few years. Had a few kids along the way, and now I'm back doing the Fox. So I feel like it's like a full circle thing here.
Yeah.
But that's how I got here.
And for being here 12 years, you're not originally from the area, are you?
No, I'm originally from the Quad City area. That's up northwest Illinois. The cities are Bettendorf, Rock Island, Moline, Davenport. And so I was from a smaller town on the Illinois side in that area. I started working in my hometown market. I didn't mention that. My first job out of college, I was hired at WHBF, which is in Rock Island, Illinois. And so that was probably a good thing for me to start close to home. You don't make a lot of money as a reporter, so I still had my family support to help me out there. But I knew I'd always wanted to go live different places and experience different things. And so I traveled around a little bit.
I have to imagine, though, 12 years of reporting and anchoring for the Wichita area, you probably know the area better than most. Or what goes on, how things actually work around town. Political
people, your people in the know, your places to go. That's what I love about the job is I love knowing what's going on. Mm-hmm. So if there's new businesses starting up, if there's issues on the city council, I just like knowing what's going on. So it's a great job for that.
Absolutely. I bet you get a lot of tips before it's, or maybe you don't. How do you get a lot of tips?
Not these days so much.
Okay.
My job's a little different now than it was. With my kids, I work part-time. So I'm not quite in the thick of knowing every single detail. But I always keep my ears open for rumors. You got to love the rumors. Did you hear? Or I heard. It's like, And then if I don't look into it, I definitely know some people who will. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I might have one for you, but
okay,
not right now.
Okay, not yet.
Speaking of rumors, are there any good stories you've covered over the years that really stuck with you? Whether it was, it doesn't have to be not necessarily salacious, but something that was either instructional or you learned something from it that was really paradigm shifting for you.
I don't know about paradigm shifting. There were. Honestly, everybody, when you talk to a reporter or you read their biography or their bio on a website, they'll generally talk on like the big flashy stories that they did. And that's great. But to me, some of the better stories or memorable ones are ones that I did with everyday people. And it wasn't anything earth shattering. They were just interesting people doing interesting things that made a really good story. And so those are the ones that I've always liked. And so there's nothing really super flashy to share. The one that keeps coming to mind, and I don't know why it's coming to mind because you're going to see what kind of story I'm talking about here when I describe this, but I met a lady. I was driving by the African American Museum, and I saw I think it was a Ford Escape that was bedazzled with rhinestones, had eyelashes on the headlights. I mean, you could not miss
this car.
See? You cannot miss this car.
And you can't unsee it.
And so...
I mean, it's beautiful.
That's interesting. And so I thought, what is this person's story? And so she happened to be, she was getting in her car at the time. And so I just pulled up alongside. I told my photographer, I was like, hey, pull over there. I want to talk to her. So I went and I chatted. I said, I want to know the story behind your car. And it came to be, she had a whole history. I think she had a son who ended up, unfortunately, in prison and ended up being in prison ministry and changing lives that way and helping people find Christ. And it was just this really cool story that came about because I approached her about her bedazzled car. And so things like that, those are the stories that I really remember. I also enjoy, this is kind of, I don't know, I enjoy politics, like reporting for politics. I enjoy like the competition and the pressure and the excitement, but I don't enjoy politics themselves. Does that make sense?
Totally. There's the fast-paced rush of it.
It's the adrenaline, the gotta get it.
There's so much. I mean, I was a low-level politician there for a minute.
Okay.
I was on Goddard City Council for 3 years.
Oh.
Which is really different than Wichita. But
sure. But it's probably enough to teach you
enough
about politics that you know whether you want to keep doing it or...
I think I'm okay with kind of the community level politics, but as far as like full-time stuff, I don't think I could handle it.
Yeah, I couldn't, but I did enjoy, the environment of being in there. Again, I like knowing what's going on and knowing the people. And, you ask about lessons, and that's another one I've learned is to always ask. And I got so many great interviews just because I had the guts to ask. And a lot of times, even reporters, when they're out, we're put in a lot of uncomfortable positions. And unfortunately, many times it'll be talking to someone after they had a loved one that was just killed in a wreck, or a loved one who found out that their family member had been murdered, or just all kinds of horrible things that happen. Yeah. And it is uncomfortable because, nobody wants to ask, like, can you share, some thoughts about your loved one, or how are you coping right now, and all those things. But if you just ask, a lot of times people love to talk about their loved ones, and it gives them a chance to remember them. And they just share some, interesting tidbits and life-changing pieces of information. So I just always learned, I'm like, you just always ask, because if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Sure. And in a fun realm, I mentioned politics, like I got, when I was in South Dakota, I ended up getting the governor in a live interview for our 5:00 show. It was one of those things where I knew the deadline was coming. Nice. He was still talking. I was like, well, I'm not going to get an interview. So I was like, would you mind going live? And he was like, well, sure. Perfect. I interviewed Mitt Romney on live TV. He was campaigning at the time. It was another one of my really fun. Cool. You just always ask. So if any other reporters are listening, always ask. Or anybody for that matter. I mean, business, sales, anything in life, just ask.
There's I don't have his name on the tip of my tongue, but there's another guy. I just went to this. It was like a Kansas tech startup deal on Monday. Okay. I think you got some news coverage actually.
That sounds familiar.
And one of the guys that works for that organization, he's early 20s, but he's had some like national famous actors on his podcast. I'm like, how do you get these people?
He asked.
See?
Exactly.
That's, and I'm like, but I want to know more. Like, how do you even? Because I shot Tim Tebow an invite, but they're probably looked at me like that dude can't afford Tebow. But
if you keep asking,
I don't know. Yeah,
just keep asking. Be polite, friendly. Keep asking. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised what can happen.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, we'll keep trying.
Yeah.
So. That's a wonderful tip is just ask. Mm-hmm. How many times, I wonder, do we just not have the guts to ask? Mm-hmm. You never know.
And I always like to even preface it and say, I'm sorry. I'm sure this is out of the realm of possibility, but I just wondered. And then whatever it is. My best friend actually gave me really good advice. She said, just throw it out there and then shut up. Mm. Just let the silence sit. If you can be uncomfortable with silence, you can achieve a lot. Just sit and wait for the answer. And most of the time, it's going to be what you want.
That's awesome.
So I've used that so many times. I don't know if it's ever failed me yet. So I just throw it out there what I need, and I sit and wait for the answer.
And you shut up.
I think so many times we get in our own way, Oh, it's okay if you don't want to, because if you wanted to, we could do this. But otherwise, just be quiet.
Just talk them straight out.
And let the silence sit. Mm-hmm. And that's good for interviews too. Just be comfortable with silence, because that's when the good stuff comes.
Excellent. So how long should I sit here in silence before we just start talking? Now we're just coaching. Right. Now we're just coaching on the podcast.
No, but you when you ask, like when you talk to people that are in a time of horrible grief and you're stuck being the reporter there, that's when you say, you just kind of let the silence, and sometimes you don't even have to ask anything and people will just start talking. So
I read the article related to the dragging case that just got sentenced. The guy got 41 years.
Yep. Yeah.
Holy cow. The depravity of evil is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine, I couldn't hardly make it through reading the article, let alone imagining being the person interviewing. Mm-hmm. So how do you get through that kind of stuff?
That's where compartmentalizing comes in. For whatever reason, I and a lot of reporters have the ability to remove ourselves personally from a situation and approach it from, this is my job. And sometimes people aren't very kind when we ask questions, and I understand that too. But when you realize that this is my job, this is what I'm paid to do, this is not me personally, they're not attacking me personally, not yelling at me personally, it makes it a little bit easier to
disconnect a little
or
bit.
even be that spot where they can vent and get some frustration out, and that's okay too. But yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. No, and I'm trying to remember, stop interrupting her.
Oh, no. Silence. No. Those situations are never fun, but you just have to realize that it's not you. And that's how people, with all the bad news, how do you go in and read it every night? Compartmentalizing. Just put it in this is what I do for a job box, and understand that you realize really quickly as a reporter that we live in a very broken world. So there have been some horrible, horrible things and it's become much different after having kids too, by the way, and which people told me would happen. I thought, well, that's so rude. You assume that I can't have feelings because I don't have kids before I had kids, but it is totally different. So especially when you have to report on stories about kids. We had the unfortunate story about the 5-year-old girl that had some horrible things happen to her. And, I picture my kids. I have 8, 6, and 4. So, but I compartmentalize it and say, this is my job for the evening. And then when I get home, my husband usually gets an earful because I talk about, get it all out, because it's not healthy to compartmentalize all the time, but just to get through the job, that's what you do.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you brought up your husband, Dylan with a Y.
Yep. Dylan with a Y.
Okay. Do you want to share a little bit about what your journey's been together through treatment, your involvement? You're wearing red today.
Right. So
LLS involvement.
Yeah. So we, let's see, October 2001 forever changed our lives. We were happy-go-lucky, healthy for all intents and purposes, as healthy as a young couple can be in the midst of raising young kids. And my husband especially has been super healthy as far as he never really drank, we'd never smoked, he never, illicit drug use, all the questions I ask you at the doctor's office where you go, no, 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 most people anyway. And so he had been really out of breath. He noticed it first when he was chasing the kids. But he thought, well, I don't work out as much as I used to. Maybe I'm just out of shape. And he thought, I need to get to a doctor. And we had it on our radar, but he came in one day after trimming some tree branches and he was white as a ghost, sweating bullets. And I was like, okay, this is not out of shape.
But if I remember right from a previous conversation, he's really athletic, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it was very strange that he would be, he was very white, looked like he was going to either pass out or throw up, something not good. And so I was like, okay. So that day I called and got him in. We see a nurse practitioner here in town. You can get in quicker. So he sent him and he went in and he's like, I need a stress test. I am out of shape. And she said, okay, well, we can order that, but let's, it's been a while since he's been in for a physical. Because again, we're generally healthy. So we didn't do the yearly doctor's appointment. So she ran a blood panel on him and we didn't think anything of it. And it was probably a good week before we heard back from her. In fact, I had even forgotten that he went. I didn't hear anything, figured everything was fine. But she called him and said, I think we need to put the stress test on hold and we need to get you in with an oncologist. And that's when you hear the word oncologist. Anybody is just, your soul drops out from you and just this horrible feeling. And so he, they said, I see some markers in your blood work that looks like you may have multiple myeloma. So he called me, and that was the worst phone call I've ever had and probably will ever have in my entire life, just because he was so upset and telling me, nobody wants to tell their loved one over the phone, but he was out working and on a sales appointment. And so he's like, this is what they said. I said, okay, well, let's, ever the optimist, let's get into the oncologist, because I know that just because, something is suspected doesn't mean let's go get it confirmed and check with the experts or whatnot. But it became, when we went to the oncologist, it became very evident quickly that this is exactly what we were dealing with. And so, talk about a paradigm shift. There are very few things in life that change your perspective about everything in a second. You know, you're going to have a baby, you have 9 months to prepare, or, you know, you get married, you have time to prepare. Even with a loved one outside of maybe the sudden unexpected death of a loved one, I mean, you generally have a little time to put your thoughts together, but that was like a wrecking ball that just came in and destroyed everything. And there's no, this is how you handle this. This is what you should do. This is where you go. And there's so many options. I mean, we had local doctors. We had, you start doing research, which is not the best thing to do right away, by the way, of, you know, your condition, your disease. And there's just so many different ways to go. It's very overwhelming. Anyway, so we basically jumped in. We were in, had a lot of connections up at Mayo Clinic for other reasons that we will not go into here with my health. But so we had some connections there, and I knew that we did some looking online that they were the best for multiple myeloma. And our oncologist here even suggested it before we asked. He's like, hey, since you're so young, I suggest you go to either Mayo or MD Anderson. And so we knew Mayo. So we chose to do that and got his treatment underway. He went through about 6 to 8 weeks of targeted therapy, where the common term is chemo. Chemo kills all cells. Targeted therapy kills bad cells. So it was nice that he didn't have to have the chemo, but did that for a while and got him. He had finished that in, I guess it would have been January of 2022. And he did 2 stem cell transplants that year. And he is now in 100%. We have celebrated 13, it'll be 14 months of remission, full remission.
Wow.
So, yeah. We went from 93% of his bone marrow producing cancer to 0.
Whoa.
So it was a scary little time, but we made it. It was okay. And we're good now. And so but our perspective is totally different. You know, things that you thought were a big deal before, not a big deal. And try to take advantage of, you know, everything that we can, because we know that, I mean, there is no cure for multiple myeloma right now. We're very close to one. So if anybody, that's why I do my work with the LLS and Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. So if you want to give to those organizations, if we find the cure for blood cancer, we find the cure for all cancers, because think about it, blood is your, if you want to call it your biggest organ, it goes through all your organs. So if we can figure out how to fix it there, then all the other cancers will be well on their way to a cure. So secret's in the blood. So, and they're super close, and they've gotten some amazing treatments. Even there was just a new one approved here just a few days ago to help people, because basically what happens is you go into remission, you hold that remission as long as you can. You want that first remission to be as deep as possible. And then if and when it comes back, you go to the next treatment and the next treatment. Yeah. And so now there's many, many, many more forms of treatment than there were before, but we're still not at a cure. So that's what we need, is a cure.
Okay.
We don't want to deal with this anymore.
Right? How was it when you went through that? What did your friendships change for better or for worse, or family relationships become more or less supportive? Maybe that's too personal, but
no.
Like, how did people come around you, or how did that shift?
Our family has always been super supportive. And so if anything, they just became more supportive. And so I also had some health challenges during this as well. So before my husband went for his first stem cell transplant, I had a total colectomy. And if anybody's experienced gut issues that way, it's really hard to have energy to get out of bed, let alone take care of your kids. So we'd had some pretty significant family involvement up to that point anyway. But as far as friendships, I mean, the friends that show up in a time like that, those are your friends. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is acquaintances, and that's fine, because, not everybody's meant to be everything to everybody, but we definitely found some core friends who showed up and helped. I mean, when people just show up and, do your laundry, clean your toilets, do things that, I couldn't do it. So, and I really didn't honestly care if it was done or not because I felt so crummy, but just to know that people did that and people would come to take care of our kids and bring these fabulous games and activities for them to do so they would be entertained. And when people show up, I will never again say, let me know what I can do for you. I will never say that again.
Okay.
What you do is you look at their needs and you think, what would I need if I was experiencing that? And then you tell them, I am showing up on Monday. What time is best for you? I'm going to take your kids and we're going to go do A, B, or C. Or you say, I'm showing up for you and I am picking up your laundry. What time is best for you? I'll come in, I'll get it. You don't have to think about it. You just offer to do things because no one is ever going to say, hey, remember when you said, let me know what you can do? Here's what you can do. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Nobody, they're probably too sick to even think about it. And nobody wants to have to acknowledge that, oh, I need you to do this for me. So just do it. So we had lots of people do that for us.
Or even if they do come to a point of, man, it'd be really awesome if somebody did this, you might get shot down. That might be too much of an ask.
Right.
Right?
Right. So it's just to have people just offer to do things. So that's a big lesson that I learned.
Okay. And that's huge because, frankly, I struggle with that. I don't know how to meet people where they're at in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And just let them know if you can't do it, is just say, hey, I'm praying for you. Or, just let them know that you acknowledge what they're going through and that you're with them in that and that it's hard. And because that means a lot too.
So this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think it's good to be aware of. This was on the Neurofaith podcast. So Dr. Kirk Thompson has some other people that come on, and he's huge in the Christian faith, psychiatry therapy space. And one of the guests, they talked about research that they did, said they studied when pastors pray, especially with a congregation, for something, and then they ask for them to give, psychologically, they've already done something. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when like if I were to say, okay, Katie, I'm going to pray for you, psychologically, the tension is resolved in a big way because I feel like I just did something for you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I didn't show up and do your laundry. I didn't clean your toilets. I didn't bring you food, but I did something for you.
You did a big thing.
I did a big, not to minimize, but in the Bible we see both sides of that. Mm-hmm. We see the prayer and the doing. So it's good to maybe be aware. Just keep that in the back of our minds of when we do that. Don't forget about the action stuff.
Right. It's still good to show up when you can. But if you can't, praying, because I would just say, there were so many times that I was so overwhelmed. If I prayed for everything I had going on, I would just walk around all the time doing that. And so it was nice to know that like sometimes you're just so exhausted. I'm like, I can't pray. Yeah. I've just hashed this out in my mind, but to know that other people that could step in for us at that time was great. But yes, the physical doing is big. Don't ever say, let me know what I can do. Right.
And the other thing is, if either keep it in mind when you say, I'm going to pray for you, or the other tip that they gave for pastors was, if you're a pastor, pray after you ask for the money.
Right. Yes.
Or the action or the involvement or whatever. Just do that after they have a chance to make an actionable commitment.
Right.
Other than money.
That's funny.
Or prayer. Yeah. Anyways, so just I was like, I've felt that before, but to put research to it's always helpful.
Yeah. How the human brain works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's really huge on just show up. And
people say like, well, if I bring groceries, what if I bring stuff they don't like? It's fine. They won't eat it. The point is not to bring them every single item that they like, want, or need. The point is to show them that you're helping. You've tried to make their life easier. That thought alone will go so far. So, and you know what? When you're in a situation like that, I'm like, bring me whatever you want. As long as I have something, to feed my kids, make my life easier. I didn't care what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We just did I think it'll probably wind up coming out just before this podcast, but we had Mike Christensen and Brittany French on with Pass It On Outdoor Mentors. And one of the things, he shared this super heart-touching story about the impact of time in involvement, and just how when we get involved in people's lives, like actually involved in their life, of showing up, cleaning the toilets, bringing the food, doing the laundry, vacuuming the floors. I doubt you even care if somebody showed up and threw a Roomba on the floor and just hit play.
Thank you.
Like, seriously. But whatever it is, that conveys love and value on a level that nothing else will.
Right. Yep. And that's, I guess, what I'm saying is it doesn't, what if they don't like it just show up and do something, and it will be received in ways you could not fathom.
What'd that do for your hope?
Oh, so much. Just to feel like, because you can go in a dark hole pretty easily,
If you weren't already there.
Yeah, exactly. And so just to know that people thought of us was a huge blessing. Yeah, and because you have to take those things one day at a time, and to know that it's like, okay, we're going to be okay. Thank goodness for that. Gave us a good thing to focus on for that day, help us realize that one day at a time, and we're going to make it. So
how has that involvement by your friends, the people that showed up, how has that changed those relationships between before and after? Or did it? Maybe it didn't.
I think I probably knew that they were good friends before, but man, some of the things that our friends did for us, like, it is rock solid now. I'm like, nobody will go against my friends or speak ill of them behind their back while I'm around. It just, when someone goes out of their way and takes time away from their family to help yours, there's something special about that we just have some really good friends.
Totally.
Very thankful for that.
Absolutely. Since my phone's recording, is that my phone or your phone?
I don't know. I hear the buzzing. Oh, it's mine. Okay. My mom is calling.
Oh, well, that's important. Do we need to take a quick
No,
break?
that's okay.
Okay.
She is doing her first grocery shopping trip on her own since moving here. So hopefully, I don't know, she'll call my dad.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like, my phone wasn't going, because I was like, I think I silenced it.
Yeah. Well, I silenced it, but apparently the vibrated.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I don't care. So I just want to make sure I wasn't getting video with it going.
Nope, that's me.
Cool. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really shored up your friendships that you already had, and helped you see more of who they are when they see other people in need.
Yes.
Especially the people they really love.
Yes. And it changed, like I said, when I'll just never say, let me know what I can do for you. I mean, you think you're doing something helpful, but once you've been in that position of need, it's not very helpful to say that. So, just knowing, I think I'm much more in tune with other people going through struggles. And, you see people and you think, oh, they have it all put together, or their life must be so great. And it's like, there's probably something in there that they are struggling with. So, they say, be kind. You never know what other people are going through. And that's very true. So,
right. Yeah. There's this going the other way. There's a van like pulling into the elementary school, and this guy comes rocking up on her. He's like, beep, beep, beep. I was like, man, I was like, that guy is so wrapped up in his own world, but we don't know why. Right?
Right.
We don't know why.
Yep. And you're not in their shoes. And even, you think, going through something like this, like your perspective really changes, but there are still lots of people who maybe haven't had a perspective shift like that. And so you even have to have compassion for that, because that used to be us. I mean, that was us until we went through what we went through. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, just always try to be, I don't know if it's self-aware or just aware of the others around you. And, you know, we've been talking about like connections and relationships, but just paying attention to the people around you and the people in your life and seeing what they're going through or asking them about it. Because everybody will say, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. But if you take a second and be like, no, but really, how, or maybe ask about, you know, their kids or something specific to their life, just to,
Yeah.
it comes down to the questions.
It does.
I love to ask questions. I annoy a lot of people by my questions, but if you don't ask, you won't know. So
How is it, or do you find yourself often being the one asking questions without
Yes.
it maybe getting volleyed back?
what do you mean volleyed back?
Them reciprocal.
Oh, yeah. I'm always the one that asks the questions. In fact, my husband will sometimes get annoyed because he'll come and tell me, I don't know, something in his family's, sorry, I got a cough. Something in his family's going on, and I'll say, well, what about this? Did you ask about this? Are they doing this? What? I mean, there's just questions that come to mind. He's like, I don't know. Okay. I'm always the one to ask the questions.
Okay.
So
How do you feel about that when you seem to be the one always asking the question? I'm not talking about necessarily your husband, but just in conversation. I mean, what if in this society people got really great at being curious and asking other people questions about what they're seeing in their life, what they're seeing going on in them, like really getting down into what they care about?
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because when you ask someone a question about themselves, or it gives them a chance, everybody wants to be seen and heard, and then you can learn things. You learn a lot by asking questions. So I think a lot of times we assume a lot of things because we don't ask, and our assumptions, we know what happens when we assume. Our assumptions are incorrect, but then we carry them around simply because we haven't asked. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think people think, well, it's not my place to ask. What business is it of mine? I was like, well, if it's not your business and they don't want you to know, then they'll let you know. It's not your business. But most of the time, people will answer.
Right? Yeah.
It's like taking that inward focus. We have because our lives are all busy. Everybody's busy. But you just taking a second to look at the people around you and considering what other people are dealing with, or thinking about why someone is acting the way they are, as opposed to just getting mad because they have, that kind of thing.
Everybody wants to feel seen, soothed, safe, and secure.
Yes.
Those are the 4 S's of attachment from Dr. Kurt Thompson.
Uh-huh.
And maybe
That's
the whatever institute. I'm not a therapist, so I can bail on exact citations, but I'm married to one, so I get the benefit of a lot of.
Must be some interesting dinner table conversations.
Well, actually, the first date was nerve-wracking.
Oh.
I'm just saying. So I'm like, I just feel like you see through me right now, and I don't know if
analyzing everything you do.
Pick up a fork or not. Like I was so self-conscious because I was like, okay, you're like literally trained on this stuff.
Yeah.
And
reading your body language.
I don't know. You just eventually get over it, but still, it's kind of like. Well, I don't know. I gotta be careful not to speak for my wife, but I would have to imagine it's a little bit like there's a difference between the professional eye of observing and also living it out.
Yeah, I would too.
Same here.
It's easy to take it from a textbook.
Yeah.
But when you apply it to a human, it's not so black and white.
Yeah. I for up until sometime this year, I actually did my own financial planning for myself and my family. And to some extent, that's still true, but I've come to find the value of sitting down with somebody else, even though I've got all this skill set. Yeah.
Interesting.
So Lyndon actually does our planning. When we sit down with somebody, we sit down with Lyndon. I mean, it's not a totally unobjective relationship, but
no, but it's still another pair of eyes and
but yeah,
another idea.
He's not us, and so he's able to ask questions in a way that we would struggle to ask questions ourselves because we have our own blind spots,
right?
And having more. Okay, now I'm just like totally on a different thing. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is even being a reporter, you're like, okay, I can put on the reporter hat when I'm talking to anybody, but it's like, hey, what if it was turned on you and people like actually want to get to know Katie and that was exercised in a regular way and we lived, and that was just society as opposed to staring at these little rectangle things.
Yes. That everybody walks around staring at and sits in waiting rooms. People used to have conversations in waiting rooms, and now you sit and look at your phone, which I do it too. So
I do it too. Yeah. So we've talked about husband, cancer story, how that's impacted relationships, a little bit about your career stuff. What do you? And I apologize. I don't think I made it to the question of asking you what do you want to make sure you talk about on this podcast for sure.
I always like to touch on, the media, especially these days, gets a really bad rap.
Okay.
And I get that because there is a lot of junk out there, and there are a lot of people who don't do what the true core meaning of journalism is. So we've earned that. But there's a lot of people don't realize like you have national media and you have local media. And while there is a slight tie, I mean, the local media will run some of the stories that your national news, your local media doesn't have the resources to be able to send a reporter out to Washington, D.C. to cover the State of the Union. It just doesn't happen. So we have to rely on the national media for our national stories for the most part. But when it comes to local media, I mean, your local media is there and they want to help, and they want to share the stories of the community, and they want to share the good things, the things that are causing problems, the things that people are talking about. And so not all local media is great either. So I can't, I'm not making these blanket statements, but for the most part, your local media is there to help, and they want to help, and they want to help by sharing stories and information that impacts lives and lets people know what's going on in their government and what their money is being used for. So just keep that in mind. It's not one big, the media, which we get wrapped up into a lot. There are lots of different aspects of it. And
yeah,
it is very different though than it started to. Like when I started in journalism, it was very, your goal was to make it, everybody has political beliefs, okay, whether you admit it or not. You have a way that you lean, you have what you believe, but starting in journalism and coming out of journalism school, it was very, you just don't let other people know. You don't talk about that in the workplace. You don't let people know. Some people even wouldn't declare like on their voter registration because that can get out and people would know. So that's how it used to be. And now it's just not like that. Like a lot of things are talked about in the newsroom in a way that they shouldn't be. And I don't know. That's also very different, but that's kind of a tangent too. But just know that your local media is generally there to help.
I've experienced that as well. With Dion Leffler over at the Eagle. He certainly has a slant, but yeah, he wants to get stuff out there. And then when it came to, and this is when everything in Goddard was blown up with politics. Justin Rohrlock, he's a journalist for the Daily Beast. But he had a lot of higher ups driving what was going on there. So they pick up on these storylines from the smaller, and they filter it up through the narratives that they have that fit what they want to get out there.
Yep. So it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't, but the level of which it happens from local media is very different.
It's extremely different.
Yeah.
But they're filtering local media up through a lens of what they want to shape the narrative to be.
Yes.
Which is,
and it used to be, when you would
tough.
cover a story, you would look for who's, like, for example, you would go, who's for it, who's against it, who does it affect?
Yeah.
and that would be how you get your interviews. And it's just not done like that anymore. It's like sometimes, and I hear it in newsrooms now, is like, your reporter gets one interview and they think they have to have their story done by 5:00. And so they take their one interview. I'm like, you can't ever really do a story with just one interview because you've got one side. It's just a very different business than when I got into it. So
even Justin Rorlock was a little surprised, and maybe, I don't know, this is a national podcast, but
sure.
But right. I think he was even a little surprised as to by the time what he wrote about made it to MSNBC, and he got about it was, I don't even know if it was a whole minute or it was a short clip is what it turned into. And by the time you reduce it down to a short clip, you can say whatever you want.
Yep.
And that's what it turned into.
Yep. And you have to be careful because you can make people say whatever you want them to say because the truth of the matter, we can't air everything.
Right.
So you have to be really careful in how you write into and out of what someone says because it can be misconstrued very easily.
I think they are being careful, but it's not pure journalism.
No. And to truly have pure journalism, there's got to be resources that fund it because, the staffing, if you go to any newsroom outside of national media, and even national media is probably short-staffed, but local newsrooms are short-staffed. They're always trying to hire. And when you're trying to hire, you need to get someone in to do the job. Does that mean you can pick the best person for the job? Probably not, because you just need someone to do the job. So, and when you're short-staffed, it makes it hard to do quality journalism. So it's kind of a vicious cycle.
Yeah. All right. So loud and clear, local journalism is
there to help. We're not the bad guys.
Yeah.
So, and, use us to your advantage, I would say.
Totally.
So, and we're always looking for stories. So if you know of something going on, share it. Shoot our reporters an email or walk up and talk to us.
Are you the one? Should I text you?
Sure.
Okay.
I probably won't be the one to cover it, but I'll definitely get it to where it needs to go. So.
Okay. Well, not that we're giving out unless you want to give your cell number out.
No. No, I do not need that. But my point is just it does no good to sit and harbor about it and be mad about it. If you think something wrong is happening, then you need to tell somebody.
Get the word out.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot of stories over the years. I'm like, I don't know how they figured that one out or got to that, but I'm really glad that got put out in the open because otherwise, you get people that there's things that aren't just happening and they don't know what to do about it. But if it gets put out in the light, gets exposed, then a lot of times people have to do something.
Yeah. And rest assured, what you see exposed is a very small fraction of what is actually happening. So if you hear about it in a news report, that it's probably on a bigger magnitude than we even know. So
yeah. So we circled back to the professional a little bit. Make sure we clear the local journalism name. It's very important.
Right.
And all, many, many people are going to hear about it from the podcast.
Yeah. The thousands. It is funny. People think that, Katie from Fox News. And I was like, well, technically, I'm not from Fox News. I work for Fox Kansas, which is a Fox affiliate. And it just so happens to be a Fox affiliate that's here in Wichita, Kansas. I do not know, all our favorite Fox News anchors personally. I have never talked to anybody from Fox News Corporate. So that's a big confusion for people too.
Okay. A couple things I want to make sure we cover before we wrap it up is what has been one of the biggest, now you shared how people show up in times of crisis, but what's maybe been a really big learning moment for you where either you picked up a piece of wisdom that has just been invaluable or something that really did change how you see the world?
Oh, wow. Something that wisdom.
We're going to break.
Sorry. Okay.
Just
I've got
as a
it.
joke.
I've got it.
I should have shut up. I should have taken your advice.
It's okay. It's okay. You know, I think a big thing I have learned is that be vulnerable and let people help you. I think a lot of times, whether it's in news reporting or whatever job we have, everybody has a tendency to think, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm great at what I do. Why would I do it any differently? And so when someone suggests, we do this a lot in the newsroom, it's very evident to see when you have a coworker who is open to receiving help and criticism, if you will, and is not. And criticism, I mean, it's never fun, but it does help you grow. And I remember just feeling kind of rotten a few times after having a superior in the newsroom give me some pointers, and maybe they weren't all flowers and butterflies and the way they communicated it, but everything they told me, most of it, I'm sure, there's probably some things I didn't do, but tried to take it and implement it because I figured, look, this person's been doing this for 30 some years and they obviously know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So who am I to tell them that they're wrong? And everything they told me, I carried with me and has helped me stand out sometimes because I've listened, and it's helped me make me a better reporter. It's helped make me a better anchor. Everything from little things, that this keeps coming to mind. I worked with he was a sports guy and a new news anchor up in Michigan, and he would say, the word towards. People like to use the word towards. It's not a word. It's toward. There is no S.
I do it though.
And I did too. And he's like, in his own demeanor, towards. It's not even a word. And I was like, it's not. And I went and looked it up, and I was like, he's right. And so it's like, that's a very minor thing. And is it the end of the world if you use the word towards? No. But when you work in a business that revolves around the English language, it's good to know the English language. Anyway, it's just good to be able to accept criticism.
Absolutely. So, yeah, be coachable, be humble.
Yeah.
There's a reason somebody's bringing up something to you. If they found it valuable enough to bring up to you.
Yeah, and don't be so offended. There. It comes down to, the whole offense. Everybody gets so offended. It's like they're not trying to offend you. They're trying to help you. Mm-hmm. And so try what they're saying, and maybe it doesn't work for you, and that's okay, but maybe it'll make you better. So.
All right. And that is a great point to go on to the other question I always want to cover is, what does it look like to live the best life possible with the time you have left?
Ooh, that's totally changed for me. I used to be so career, go, go, go. I want to be at the network. I want to do this. I want to, be Matt Lauer and ride a helicopter work. I don't want to be Matt Lauer. He's in trouble. But, I wanted all those fancy network bells and whistles and to do all that. And to live my best life with the time I have left means to, be there for my family is it for me. I mean, that's why I work part-time now is I get to be there for my kids when they come home from school. I get to take my kids to school. I don't necessarily get to do bedtime right now, but hopefully we can shift things around and I'll make that work too. But that's all I really want. I want to be with my favorite people. And my career, I enjoy my career. I enjoy what I do, but it's definitely not my focus anymore. So at least in that way.
Yeah.
I still like to do a good job. So if my boss is listening, but my family is just really important to me. So
your boss is still your people, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there we go.
Okay. Shoot. But it is funny how that's changed, because if you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be wearing yoga pants, driving a minivan, staying home with my kids most of the time and taking them to school and loving it, I probably would have punched you in the face.
Ooh. All right. So
but here I am,
in the face.
living the dream. So I wouldn't change it.
And, in all fairness, if somebody told you that, maybe they would deserve a punch in the face. Because I don't know what you're going to like in 5 or 10 years from now.
Right? True. Thank you.
at the same time, I would hypothesize once people feel what a healthy relationship is and experience it and live in it, they don't want to give it up.
Right. Exactly. No, I completely agree. And unfortunately, not everybody has that. So I've been very fortunate in that realm. So yeah, that's all I want to do.
Cool.
Be with my family and support them and do fun things together. We like to travel. We like to do adventurous things and make the most of it. Make memories. That's what I like.
How has it been going about an hour without asking a question?
I can do it.
Wow.
That is a very good point. I did it. And I didn't feel strange until now. No, it's good.
Is there a question you want to ask?
What made you so interested about the news reporting business?
I think if we can stay curious, then life is so much more interesting. We can get to know other people well. And even going back to the title, Real Wealth Podcast, material wealth, money, guess what? It was here before we got here. It'll be here after we're gone. But relationships is really where it's at. And that exchange of value, we were created for that. The rest of it's just kind of facilitate along the way.
Do you think we'll ever get back to where, like everybody likes to say, like the COVID timestamp? And I don't think we were necessarily the best at it before COVID, but I think after COVID, I mean, it just, like, look at our workplaces now. So many more people work from home, or I don't know. I just feel like our connections, so many more, like restaurants, you can order from an app and you just pick it up, or grocery stores, you can have them bring it out to you. Like all those extra places that we had time for connections are taken away, or can be taken away.
We're going to break.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, made you think.
I don't know. That's really hard to try to think. Where do we go from here? Because I know the neighbors that packed up their minivan and their little U-Haul trailer to go with it, and that they had 2 semis leave last week. And I never got to know them, which was unfortunate. I would have liked to maybe have a little more insight into their life. I have to say I'm looking forward to whoever's going to be there next, for a number of reasons. But they weren't social at all. They didn't want to interact, like, right. Period. And so I do look forward to really good neighbors that I can connect with, that we can connect with as a family, is my hope. And I don't know. Like, I don't know what it takes at a really broad level to go from where we're at to people being engaged and connected. And because part of the struggle is you got to be connected with yourself. And if you're so distracted with the little rectangle things and entertained, that you don't have to do any inward looking or analysis or dissecting or really wrestling with things that might be really hard to wrestle with.
Maybe that's why you're not doing it.
That's why you'd rather be distracted.
Yes.
And
it's easier.
If you can't relate to yourself in that way, why would anyone expect you to relate to anybody else on a deeper level?
True.
I don't know. So I don't know. That's why I mean, I want to see it change. And it starts with this guy, And so
I know, but you can't make anyone else do it. That's the thing,
Yeah, you can't. But maybe you pick up a little more compassion along the way.
Yep. True. You never know what someone's dealing with. So
That's right. Back to the guy that's honking at the nice little old lady just trying to drop her kids off.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
It's like, just relax.
Just relax.
It's not a big deal.
So from a powerhouse Fox News anchor down to, you've really apparently chilled out over the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
The
I
cancer
think
struggle
so. Even in the past 2 years, I think I've probably changed quite a bit.
And I didn't know you before. I'm going off what you told me, just for the record.
Yes, okay. No, I love control. I love control. It sounds so bad, but I like to control what I can. And man, past couple of years have taught me that I control nothing. So I'm along for the ride.
How'd you get okay with that?
A lot of like venting frustration and anger, and but in a way it makes it better, because then if I don't have control and things go all haywire, I mean, it's not my fault either. So it's been very freeing to just let go. And it's given us a chance to see like God working in our lives and the things that he's doing that I could not have made happen. So, and look, it's 2 years later and I relinquished control and things are pretty great. And so I just refuse to sweat small stuff. I'm like, it's going to work out. It's going to be great. I mean, he can do more than me, far more than we imagine. So, so yeah, I've let go a lot.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a wonderful note to go and wrap the podcast.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this
has been fun.
Yeah, this has been really fun.
Thanks for having me. It's probably good therapy for me.
I'm not a therapist.
I know.
I'm going to put that out there too. No therapy has been performed here today. I'm not licensed, none of that. So, anyways, this has been Mike Proctor hosting with Fox News anchor Katie Taube.
Fox Kansas News anchor.
Fox in parentheses,
Yeah.
Kansas.
I'm not going to be in New York anytime soon.
Well, yeah.
Although, who knows? I've relinquished control, so whatever happens.
Yeah, well, I like Wichita.
I do too.
Yeah. On Real Wealth Podcast, sponsored by Leading Edge Financial Planning. And yeah, we just want to help people make wise financial decisions and help them live their best life possible.
Make some connections.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day.
You're welcome. This was fun. It's good.
Talk about relinquishing control.
Yeah, let it go. You don't control it in the first place. I just didn't know that up until now.
Perfect. Do you have a link for your LLS campaign funding?
I can get it to you.
Okay, yeah. So we can put her LLS in. You said MLS or what was
MMRF. I don't have a link for that, but it's just
MMRF.
another organization that specifically directs money to myeloma. LLS does all blood cancers. MMRF does multiple myeloma.
Okay, so we'll put those in the notes
Okay.
if you would get on board with Katie and her fundraising efforts to help take care of this terrible disease for millions of other people as well.
Yeah, nobody should have to deal with cancer, any kind.
Cancer sucks.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, my father-in-law, and I've lost a father-in-law now, and a uncle to esophageal cancer, and then but I'm everybody certainly has,
Everybody's touched by it.
Has been touched by it. Yes,
Whether it's directly or a loved one, so it's very unfortunate, but we got to get rid of it.